Hi, welcome to another episode of Talking Tech at the VirtuWorks studios. My name is Gianni Delerta and I'll be your host today. And joining me is Mr. Omar Monteros and Mr. Michael Blumberg. So today we're going to be talking about Azure metered services and how that relates with small businesses. Omar, can you give me a kind of overview of what Azure metered services is?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people out there are probably familiar with the offerings of many companies, not just Microsoft itself, for instance, like Amazon Cloud, Azure, you have Rackspace, you have GoDaddy that, you can buy VMs from. All these are public cloud offerings. The hyper cloud offerings, which are Amazon and Azure, they specifically sell the services on a pay-as-you-go model, right? So if you buy a virtual machine and you use it for an hour, you only pay for that 1 hour of usage. Basically, traditionally companies would buy a virtual machine or buy a service and pay a flat monthly rate, for the entire month. But the shift is now, why do I have to pay for an entire month of service if I'm only going to use 5 minutes, right? So this basic difference between the traditional way of buying these API services and what you do now in these consumption-based services.
Got it. But that sounds like it could be a little bit scary for a business. Like, I know businesses like to have like their fixed costs. They know what they have to pay for every month. Is there some misconceptions when you're thinking about it in like the terms that it goes up and down in price and whatnot?
Yes.
Or in utilization, sorry.
Yeah, yes. Well, specifically, when we started interacting with Microsoft about their cloud, this was a fear that we had because, at the end of the day, we're passing along the billing, right? So we're buying from Microsoft Azure, we're selling it to our customers. And our concern was, hey, we have 100 customers and all of them spend a bunch of money, or for instance, they have a developer that makes a mistake and runs amok on some service. The bill could be out of control, right? So we went through this process at the beginning, trying to think of, try to understand it, and it was very scary to kind of wrap your head around. But over time, what you start understanding is that each service that you buy has a max price, right? So if I buy a VM and it has a certain size and a certain dimension, that VM could maximum cost me X amount of dollars, right? So when you're doing budgeting and planning around your cloud consumption, you have to take snapshots, understand what the maximum amount that you might be billed for these items are, and that's your worst case scenario budget, right? Everything else, you could kind of count, based on how much you're going to use it, right? So we were scared, for instance, somebody might want to, spin up, they write an API and they make it create a VM, and it creates a VM every minute. You're going to run, eventually, they'll be spending $1 million an hour, right? But inside of Azure, even though it looks like it's an oil field and you could build unlimited and everything you want, at some point, once you create a certain number of services, Microsoft locks you out and doesn't let you buy anything else without opening up a ticket and requesting for additional resources.
So kind of like a safeguard to make sure that you're not
going to go over. Like a safeguard, yes.
So, it seems like there's a lot of advantages to being able to turn things on, turn things off. Michael, can you tell us a little bit about how that affects like businesses that are seasonal? Maybe especially like accountants and manufacturing companies that have like ups and downs with their staff and their utilization.
Exactly. Accountants is a great, a great way to look at things where, April, right? Come before April, they might want to ramp up the resources to have it available. And then, afterwards, they can then ramp those resources down. Same thing with manufacturing companies that might, have seasonal holiday type of.
So an example of what Michael's explaining is that, say you have an accounting firm and you have 120 employees. Those 120 employees might be connecting to a remote desktop system, for instance, and you might have built out 7 or 8 servers, and it's a load balance situation, or whatever. And that scenario was built for the peak consumption that you have, right? And that peak consumption might be every day at noon, or like Michael said, during April 15th,
during a
right?
tax season,
certain day, right? So, are you able to turn off all your resources in that scenario? No, because the company's still always using something, right? But do they need 7 servers? No. Sometimes in the low peak, they might be able to get away with 4 servers, but when they're really loaded, they might need 7, right? So programmatically, you could write scripts that turn on and off servers outside of peak hours to drop the number of servers from 7 to 4, and raise it automatically from 4 to 7 based on the number of users that are logging into it. So it really is about basically being able to scale the services you're using depending on the time of day and how much you actually need. In a traditional environment, if you were say you were Hewlett Packard or Dell or whoever, right? You would always have to construct your infrastructure for peak usage, no matter what time of day or whatever, right? So
we're talking about businesses that have a single shift. They're not really kind of moving up and down, right? That's like how it works, because that's what a normal
that's in one
business
case
is.
you have a small business, they might have
9
one
to
server,
5, and that's when they're utilizing it.
Right, but even in small businesses like that, they want to have it accessible 24 hours a day. So if they only have one server, they're not going to be able to be scaling back and forth because that server has to always be on. This really only affects larger businesses, right? Where the resources are vast, right? So if you're using 100% of your resource at a certain time, well, certain times of the month you might be able to drop down to 70%, and you drop 30% of your consumption, right? If you're too small, it's all or nothing, right? So
You got it, because there's not enough diversity in the amount of things that they're utilizing
exactly
in order to be able to bring it down or bring it up.
Right.
And also, also in multi-shift businesses, right? You might have certain types of employees you have during the day that are using a lot more resources, and then maybe like warehouse staff are coming in the evening
every
and be able
business,
to use it that way.
that's
So
kind of a case.
it can be used that way too.
Right. So say you're an airline, right? Well, you fly during the day, and at night you have a skeleton crew that's cleaning the planes and whatever, right? So during the day you need 20 times the amount of resources that you need at night, right? So that's a way to play with the consumption-based computing, where you can save a lot of money by just planning your peak hours and what you're using.
Got it.
Another feature of Azure, though, which is built right into it, is auto scaling, right? Where if you built your applications correctly and you built it in the Azure format, you could actually have Azure automatically scale out and scale down your use based on load, right? So you could say, if this web app reaches 75% CPU usage for more than 10 minutes, spin up another web app, configure the application, join it automatically into the load balance, and you can do that indefinitely. And the system will automatically decide if I should add a server, or if I should remove a server, depending on the average consumption of the CPUs and all the different services.
So like in a real world example on that, I actually experienced something like that in the past, where you built a website, an e-commerce thing, and it went on national TV, and it got hit really hard. And instead of having the server come down, you're saying that something can auto scale it up to be able to withstand the demand.
As it sees the demand raising, the Azure could automatically scale it out. To make it
so everybody will have the same exact clean experience.
Exactly, based on
instantaneously, pretty much.
But it's it takes a couple of minutes for it to
it scales.
But it scales on its own, and another example, you're a retailer. It's Christmas, right? The whole year you don't sell anything. You're a Christmas tree salesman, right? Well, you needed one web server all year, right? But now it's Christmas time. You need 10 servers, right? Because now so now you scale it out, you leave it there for December, and then in January come around, you scale it back down to your one site.
So you're saying it could be automatic. So wherever you have the resources set up in that way, as you start adding to the utilization of it, it's going to increase by itself.
Correct. And this just doesn't apply to just web services. It applies to databases, to any type of consumption, anything that you buy outside of Azure.
Virtual desktops.
It is vast, the amount of services that they have. Machine learning. Cognitive services,
especially in the programmatic aspects that you were talking
simple
about.
Simple API, there's a ton of stuff that you can use out there that's available.
Very interesting. So Omar, is this the dashboard that small businesses sees, or the users, the owners, the operators are going in to look at their budgets and things like that?
Yes, on the VirtuWorks side, we're something called a Microsoft Tier 1 CSP. Which basically means that we have an API direct buying relationship with Microsoft. We don't have to buy through a third-party vendor. Most managed service providers or cloud providers have to buy through a third-party vendor, which doesn't allow them to have access to this granular data in real time, and so they're not able to collect and produce the same type of thing. Not to mention, they're basically being billed by a third-party middleman, right? So they have little control over the spend, right? So what we've done is that we've built this platform. It's going out to Microsoft and it's pulling in all your consumption information into our system, and then we're analyzing that information, and making sure that you're buying the stuff with the right sizes, that you're not overspending. We get daily reports. The account manager get daily reports, which we monitor and we look to see if anything weird has happened. Maybe your bill came $1,000 higher than normal. We'll question it and we'll go look to see what occurred. VirtuWorks really stands in as a trusted expert advisor to you, which it's like a level up from just working directly with Microsoft. When you call Microsoft or you go to their website, you're dealing with a website. You're not dealing with somebody that could actually answer questions to you about what the different services are. Being able to give you ideas of what scale you need to buy off the bat.
So they're giving you the raw information. You have to decide what you're going to do with that information. But as you're mentioning, VirtuWorks is taking that information and doing stuff to it, where you as a team can decide.
Right. So all that consumption information is coming into our control panel, and the users are able to come out to our control panel and see their monthly billing amounts, what broken down by what they spent it on, all the different services, because you have to remember that Azure is a vast place, right? So you could be buying all kinds of different things, not just virtual machines. So you want to see your bill broken down based on what the different breakdowns are. What are you spending on? Yeah. Now, another thing that we have budgets, right? So daily, the system monitors the budget, based on your spend. And when you reach your budget amount, it'll start sending you alerts automatically saying, hey, you reach your budget, or you're 85% at your budget, so that you are alert that you're about to reach the number that you agreed to spend, right? So now at that point, as a customer, you could call us as well and be like, hey, well, why is this server costing so much, right? It only should cost this. In most cases, it's user error in scaling the size of the machine, right? So they reach out to us and we act as that trusted advisor, looking at what they're trying to buy, what they're using, what their usage was, are they buying the right size, and those type of questions, and we help them fix those problems, as they go. So a lot of it really is about us collecting information so that we could help you to make sense of it. So when you as a customer don't understand or don't know something, we're able to answer those questions, very fast and help you fix them. Outside of that, you're able to download your consumption report to an Excel file every month if you want, and also these consumption reports go into detail by detail to you by email, so you get these by email. And then you're also able to access the Microsoft Azure portal, which is here from our dashboard, and when you reach that, it's the actual Azure interface, right? Now Microsoft, right? So Microsoft is actually has their own cost management system inside of the portal, and this is what I'm showing you here. This cost management basically correlates with our cost management. They're kind of similar in price, right? They're never exact because our start and end of the month, might be off by a couple of minutes. They might bill something in one or whatever. And as a CSP, we don't have to be exact price, but you can basically see that Microsoft says we should have spent 6,012, and on VirtuWorks, it says we should have spent 6,110, right? So here you're able to see more breakdowns and more visualizations of what you're actually spending, and break it down further. It also allows you to do cost alerts and budgets and that sort of thing.
So what's the biggest difference then between these two? It's like having, if let's say for example, a small business signs up for Azure and is doing virtual desktops, right? What's the difference about also having it through VirtuWorks, having that kind of view? Is it just the advisor aspect of it?
It's the advisor aspect of it, and it's the way we consolidate and bring information from a bunch of different places inside of Azure into one place where it makes it easier for you to consume.
Got it. Because this is just one thing.
This is just one thing.
Got it. This doesn't include Office, for example, or
Right.
phone systems, or whatever other thing.
We want to basically correlate the information
Onto one
all,
location.
based on what you need, right? This information is not as easily readable as the information. You have to go out and grab a bunch of different sources
to make sense of it.
To make
Got
sense
it.
of it.
Got it. So you have to like get a spreadsheet from here, and kind of put them together and come
Where
up
we
with an
already
idea.
know what you're trying to look for and what's going to affect you, and we've built our reports around that data rather than what Microsoft is trying.
And I'm assuming a small business has a much easier time when they call for support or for, hey, why is my bill like this, or can I
how can I
add more
improve
or
it?
less, because you can see it all in an
Not only that, is because also we're not a 1-800 number mega company that you're gonna get a different person every single time you call, right? You with VirtuWorks, you have dedicated representatives that are going to be able to chew the data and talk to you about it and really understand what you're trying to do, rather than just being a 1-800 number that doesn't really completely comprehend your intent. Right?
They have knowledge. You guys have knowledge of their business.
We have knowledge of the business, of the
how they
intent, what they want to do, their schedules, and all that stuff. Different from Microsoft, which or any of these bigger clouds, which really that's not their job, right? Their business is not to dig into your business, right? They're just providing cloud service.
They
only
give you the
care-
product and they hand it over and say, "Go ahead, you can do whatever you want.
whatever
with
you
it."
want with it.
But where VirtuWorks comes in, is, okay, let me help you with this product. Let's help you do
We
something
help you
great
make
with
sense.
it.
We help you make sense of the products, or we'll help you understand what you need to buy to accomplish what you want, right? We're more like builders, creators, rather than just provider, helping you buy, right? We'll help you actually create as well.
Got it. I have one last question on the aspect of the dashboard. If we can go to the dashboard, is there the ability, like you guys were mentioning, how things go up and down, right? Seasonal businesses and whatnot. Would you be able to see that here, right?
Well, here, we have monthly graphs.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty steady,
So this almost would be like a typical business, right? Kind of being consistent. But if we were talking about an accountant, we might see kind of like a shift in utilization.
Exactly. Depending on the day, depending on how many servers are running and stuff. And as you can see, it's broken down by color code, right? So you could say, okay, well, this color code here is log analytics. Well, that's how much of my spend is log analytics. And the gray area is backup, right? So as VirtuWorks, we're spending the most amount of information on backups, right? So that's what this graph represents.
That gives you a lot of valuable information to make sense of it. Plus, I can assume that the business owner can kind of forecast what's going to happen the next year by seeing, a certain area of time or a span of time. Very interesting. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Talking Tech. If you have questions about Azure metered services and how VirtuWorks can help your business, make sure to visit us at virtuworks.com. Please make sure you're subscribed to this channel for future episodes.